Greetings, everybody. Can those of you online hear me? Perfect. All right. Then I will call to order this meeting of the City of Boise's Public Works Commission right here at 4 o'clock. And to kick things off, I will do a quick roll call. Please, if you are here, let me know. Commissioner Ellis?
Here.
Commissioner Collette? Commissioner Pagan?
Here.
Commissioner Wernz?
Here.
Commissioner Lockett? Commissioner Morgan?
I'm here.
And then Commissioner Thornfelt.
Here.
All right. Thank you all. That brings us to the first item on our agenda, which is the approval of minutes from our last regular meeting on November the 6th of 2024. And I would take a motion.
Commissioner, before we do, I have a correction.
Sure.
At the end of the meeting minutes for adjournment, I left early and was not part of the results.
Not part of the round, so we'll just strike you from participating in that motion.
Thank you.
All right, so I would then entertain a motion including that edit.
Chair, I so move.
All right, motion by Commissioner Morgan. Do we have a second?
Aye.
A second from Commissioner Pagan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right, and that brings us to our regular agenda. And the first item here is the Public Works Commission role, responsibilities, and logistics. And with that, I will hand it over to staff.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. It's good to see you tonight. We're going to start by going over, where did my presentation go? We're going to start by going over the roles of the Commission. If we can have the slide back.
Right, while we're getting that, I forgot to recognize Councilmember Corliss for joining us here today. Thanks for being with us. Right.
There it is. Excellent. All right, so let's talk about the role of the commissioners. Boise City Code Title II, governing boards, commissions, and committees. You can read that code at citycode.cityofboise.org, or it can be obtained from the office of the city clerk. Your role is to represent the public at these the public's best interest, and you represent the needs and concerns and priorities of our residents. And you are their voice in this room, and you are eyes and ears in the community. And we appreciate you bringing residents' perspectives to the works that we do. What the commissioners and commission do not do is boards, commissions, and committees do not make citywide policy, resource, or fiscal decisions, nor may they enact an ordinance or other determination that has the force of law. Most boards, commissions, and committees are limited to making recommendations to the office of the mayor and city council. PWC roles provide recommendations on policies and direction. PWC provides guidance and feedback across the entire breadth of public works duties. Terms are 4 years for general seats and 1 year for the student seat. Commissioners can serve an unlimited number of terms, and elections are held annually in November for the chair and vice chair roles. Communication. Public Works commissioners can direct questions or communications about the commission to Kathy Schoenfeld at cschoenfeld@cityofboise.org, and copy Public Works Director Steve Burgos at sburgos@cityofboise.org. To maintain consistency, continuity, transparency, and efficiency, commissioners should not communicate directly with other public works staff. Any subcommittee recommendations or requests should be addressed through the communication protocol aligned above. PWC meetings. Here is the meeting schedule for 2025. So today's meeting date for February. Coming up in May, it would be May 7th, August 6th, October 1st, and November 5th. With an asterisk on August, we've talked about the fact that last August, we had quite a few vacations. We noticed that quite a few of the public works staff, people who are traveling with their families, August is kind of a busy month. So just wanted to flag that we may look at, we may revisit that with you and see if perhaps that might be better placed on the calendar. All right. Location is here at City Hall, as you know. The meetings are held in a hybrid format, so they're both virtual and in person. And the notices are sent via email as a courtesy and are posted as required on the city's boards and commissions webpage. The meeting schedule and YouTube recordings can also be found there. And commissioners are asked to respond to RSVP, their email to plan for their attendance and quorum. Okay, and finally, parking, which is always important downtown. There are a couple of permits that need to be displayed on your window. They're valid in the City Hall overflow parking areas only. Permits are for official business only during regular business hours, and the garage can only be accessed from Main Street between Capitol Boulevard and 6th Street. And you have a map there of some of the parking area in the garage. Any questions on that? Excellent. Thank you.
And thank you that that overview of our role on the commission. Great reminder for newbies and veterans alike. And that brings us to our next item of business, which is an overview, also I'm sure good for newbies and veterans alike, Public Works overview. And with that, I will turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commission. My name is Steve Burgos. I'm the Public Works Director. And this Public Works overview is typically something we would have included in the November session. But if you recall, we were kind of knee deep in a lot of discussion about recycled water and trying to get in through a lot of information on the solid waste program. So we kicked it over to the February session. And this is really intended just to give you a very high level overview of Public Works. What we do in Public Works, we're excited to announce that we've completed our reorganization, and I'll show that to you here in a second. We do want to spend some time talking about the different branches now that are part of Public Works. We've reorged, and we have our deputy directors here this evening, except for Haley Faulkner. She couldn't make it. So Ben Nidegger, our new operations manager, is going to cover the water renewal services portion. And we're also fortunate enough to have our arts and history department here. Well, not the whole department, but folks representing arts and history to give you an overview of how they support our work and vice versa. We support the arts and history programs. We've had a wonderful partnership with them over the years. Really excited, even more excited about what's coming in the future, because we're going to be getting out into the community with some of our Percent for Arts investments. So really excited about that. And then we'll close it out with some things that are going to be happening this year in community engagement we want you to be aware of. And then we'll open it up for questions, any discussion. So without further ado, we'll start with our mission. And this is a mission that was developed probably about 15 years ago or so. And don't feel compelled to change it, frankly. I think it captures really well what we're about in Public Works. Our mission is to use our resources effectively and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community, leaving a legacy of enhanced quality of life for Boise. And so this is often how we look to when we do our financial planning. We prioritize work on within water renewal. We look to the mission of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Just a quick by the numbers. There's a lot of information I could have put on the slide, but we just want to give you a taste for some of the things that we do on an annual basis. We collect about 1 million+ data points on the Boise River as part of our compliance, both with our Clean Water Act discharge permits and also just trying to gather data on the river so we can make better decisions on water quality, enhance the river options that we have. We have about 100% service uptime within water renewal, for example. We joke within the city, within Public Works, there's no such thing as a no flush Friday. We are always receiving the used water, and we've got to be prepared to receive it, treat it to a very high level, and discharge it to the Boise River. Our water quality lab does about 730,000 analyses a year on everything from testing for specific constituents to when we had the recycled water pilot up and running. That was a whole suite of additional testing that they had to take on for that approximately 2 years that we were running the pilot. We've got up to about 370 staff members now within Public Works. We've got about 75,000 residential connections, and our operating budget is about 50 million a year. This year, we're still running through the budget numbers. That'll be a little bit higher, but it's about $50 million a year for our operating budget. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our reorganization. Before I jump into the actual slide that shows the organization, I want to give you a little bit of a background. About 2.5 years ago, we recognized that how Public Works was set up really hadn't changed for several decades. And we'd found that a lot of the portions of Public Works that kind of there were portions of Public Works that were kind of fit into the organization that didn't really kind of fit within maybe the vertical that they were aligned in. And so we also recognized that we weren't necessarily future-proof for what we knew was coming in the future. And we also recognized that there were some frustrations with staff on kind of how we were set up and reporting lines. We also had situations where certain folks had 13, 15 direct reports. That could be really challenging to manage, both for the supervisor, but also for the staff who can't get the attention maybe of a supervisor if there were less folks that they were part of their team. So we went about a reorganization process. It took us about 1.5 years to get the study done. We started with staff. We did surveys with staff to figure out what was working, what wasn't working. We had one-on-one sessions with many staff members within Public Works to, again, learn what's working, what's not working. We considered different structures. I think we went through probably 15, 20 versions of different structures that we'd considered. And then what we came back with is what we're going to show you here, which is our leadership structure, our new leadership structure. And we now have 3 branches within Public Works. We have our shared services that's led by our new deputy director, Kristen Ryan. She'll be talking here in a second. I'll let her introduce herself. Our water renewal services branch, which is Haley Faulkner. Unfortunately, Haley couldn't join us tonight, so Ben's going to fill in for her. And then Colin Hickman, who is our new core services deputy director, that will also speak here in a second. The idea is that we have the Water Renewal Services Fund is by far our biggest fund within Public Works rather. And we felt pretty strongly that we needed to have one person that had kind of everything from concept all the way through design, construction, and operation of the utility. In effect, what was happening is, as the director, I was serving as kind of a part-time director of a utility that I just showed you is around $50 million a year on operating, and then on the capital side, well over $100 million. So the intent was to have one person in charge of water renewal services. That's Haley Faulkner, reporting up to the director. In addition, we added the core services deputy director to get those other utilities, those other enterprise funds aligned around kind of common areas. So you can see there, we have the materials management group. That's our CURBIT program. We have the climate action team under Steve Hubble. And then we have our facilities program management and operations under Lindsay Erb. And those are all external facing services that we have. You might be saying, well, how is facilities, which is kind of providing service to fire, library, et cetera, external? It really is a client that's external to Public Works that we're serving that also serves the public, right? So we're maintaining the libraries, maintaining fire stations that's providing service to the community. And so those are our two, the water renewal and core services. Those are kind of our verticals, if you will. And then on the left is our shared services branch. And those are the folks that are really providing services across the enterprise funds. So you can think of those maybe as our horizontals. And so that's going to be our engineering services that provides engineering to geothermal. They provide engineering to the water renewal services team. That's our finance and administrative division. They do all of our financing for our financial evaluations for all of the utilities. and then our organizational strategy group, which is a newer group that we have in Public Works that is really trying to get our arms around some of the, I'll say, non-technical issues that we deal with. I think we're really good on the technical side. We know water renewal, we know recycling, trash, compost, etc. But I think on the business management side, on the developing strategy side, the communication side, we tried to get those folks in one group, the organizational strategy group, to really start getting better at some of those softer skill sets. And then underneath these, I won't belabor them, but we have the groups that, for the most part, were already existing within Public Works, but got moved into different divisions that you see here under the deputy directors. Before I move on, any questions about our new org structure? This is obviously pretty high level, but I wanted to introduce it to you.
Questions, Commissioner Ellis?
Thank you. So one of the things you said was the large amounts of people on the team. So I wondered, how does that look like now? Is it for like from Jim Party over to Lindsay Erb? How many are there several teams under there, or how many people are under those?
Chair, Commissioner Ellis, thank you for your question. I'm going to get to that here in a second. I'll show you another slide that has the details underneath each one of the branches. So if you're patient, I'll be getting there in 1 second. Thanks for the question.
And I really like this slide. I think it's very helpful.
Thank you. So that's the new leadership structure within Public Works. And now I'm going to go over to the functional structure that gets into what Commissioner Ellis was just asking about. So in more detail, you can see the shared services branch, the water renewal service branch, and the core service branch. And underneath those are the divisions that I just alluded to: engineering, we've got our finance, administration, et cetera. And under those, you can see more detail into how those are set up. And I would maybe point out a couple of things. A lot of these teams have stayed the same, in part because they were high functioning. One of the things that we made a decision early on was not to just change something for change's sake. If there's a team that's performing really well, and I'll point to engineering, that's a team that performs very well. We have some design services internal where we do our own pipeline design. Didn't want to mess with that group. They perform at a high level. So you'll see there's some areas where we didn't touch the teams below the divisions because we wanted to keep them together. They're functioning. Let's keep it going. There's other areas, like, for example, if you look under organizational strategy, we have a data analytics and process improvement team. That's not something that existed before. This came out of some recommendations from staff. Heather Buchanan in particular brought up the idea that we have data analysts throughout the organization, but we don't necessarily have an overall strategy for how we're managing data, how we're collecting, how we QA/QC data. So that's a new group that's going to be working on much more systematic, standardized approaches around our data sets. We're working closely with IT. That will likely be a group that gets involved in how we start to integrate AI into our work, and we're considering those types of things. So that's a new group that we've kind of pulled folks from across the organization that were analysts, and now they're going to be in a centralized group around data analytics and process improvement. Other things that jump out: we bumped up the materials management program to the kind of the same level as other enterprise funds. It was a little bit buried in the organization. They have a huge responsibility providing the service through Republic Services for hauling trash, recycling, compost, and so they've been bumped up to the senior level line. And then on the facilities program management, the far right blue, you'll see real estate and fleet services. As part of a larger citywide reorg, those two entities have been moved into Public Works. And the rationale was both with fleet services and real estate. One, in Public Works, we're already taking care of all of the fire stations, all the parks admin buildings. We get very involved in if there's going to be a new fire station, in acquisition of real estate, et cetera. It seemed to make sense to have real estate in Public Works. And then on the fleet services side, it's very common for Public Works departments to have fleet services in the department. And in this case, as we start to ramp up our asset management program, We felt it made a lot of sense to have fleet services, lots of assets. If we're going to start setting standardized approaches around asset management, it made sense to have fleet services within Public Works. So again, high level overview, but I just wanted to give you a sense for the new org structure, where we landed. We're really excited. One of our goals at the beginning of the reorganization was to be very proactive with our change management. So for the really first time within Public Works, we had a very formalized change management process where we had a change manager assigned, a project manager, and an executive sponsor. And if you've ever heard of ProSci, that more formal change management process, we use the ProSci change management process. We think it worked pretty well. There were hiccups here and there, but we really wanted staff to feel comfortable with when a change was happening, why was it happening, who was involved, have meetings with those new teams when they're forming. And so far, so good. We're basically, I think, 2 to 3 months out of wrapping up the reorg, and we'll be off and running. Any questions on the reorg? I know that's a lot of information, new information.
I have one sort of high level question,
Sure.
and then I'll hand it over to Commissioner Wernz. Are there currently anticipated impacts for the kind of feedback that you'll be requesting from the commission, or other ways that we might plug in and be useful within this reorg?
Chair, thank you for the question. No, I don't think so, because like the recycled water program that we've been talking a lot about with you all, that falls under Water Renewal Services. It'll be under the facilities. It kind of aligns with the new organizational structure, so I don't think it'd affect that. In the case of materials management, we're going to be talking to you next session, I believe, with more information on the status of the strategic plan, the solid waste strategic plan. Again, I don't think the reorg would change how we'd go about talking with you all.
Okay,
But
cool. Yeah,
appreciate the
I
question.
just didn't know how big any of the impacts for things like integrating real estate and fleet services would, it would reach the level of an item before the commissioner considerations.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wernz, and then we'll head to Commissioner Ellis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Director Burgos, wanted to ask about the 3 vacancies that you have in your management structure and what the status is for hiring to get your team complete.
Chair Gravatt, Commissioner Warren, thank you for the question. We are actively advertising. In fact, I sat in 2 interviews yesterday and this morning for the organizational strategy senior manager. So we are actively recruiting. There might be a situation, in fact, I'll go back to the previous slide. In the situation of the water resource or water renewal services program division, that's probably going to be advertised here in the coming weeks. And then the open position for materials management is kind of a misnomer. Peter McCullough, he's been in front of you, he's going to be promoted to a senior manager, and he'll be filling that position. So we are actively interviewing one, and we'll be actively recruiting on the other.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellis?
So thank you, Chair Kabat. Director Burgos, I was curious, I was going to test my ability to see where things would land. So like if I'm dealing with Andrea Leonard with stormwater, that would be, is that regulatory affairs under water quality, or is that engineering services?
Chair.
Oh, I see stormwater now. Now I see it.
Yeah, I was gonna point out,
Sorry.
yeah, engineering services. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I'm being tested too, which is kind of nice.
And then
Yeah.
So to be
like,
under engineering services.
then wastewater with like Zach and Brian Feather and all those, that would be water quality then.
That is correct. That's under the pre-treatment program.
Okay.
where I
Let's
go back.
see. I'm trying to see if there's any more. Oh, and I was going to ask, I see project management is under utility implementation. Is that project management to help all of Public Works, or just project management to help with utility implementation?
Chair, Commissioner Ellis, thank you for the question. Yes, that's just for water renewal services. So one of the changes we've made recently is, frankly, a recognition that project management is a very specific skill set. Just because somebody's a project engineer or an engineer or a scientist doesn't mean they know how to effectively manage large projects. So one of the things we're actively recruiting for right now, I think, is a senior project manager, and then I think we'll have 2 additional project managers exclusively dedicated to all of the projects we're doing at the water renewal facilities. And again, recognizing that project management skill sets are very specific, they're unique, and we need them. So they'll be assigned specifically to the water renewal utility. The city does have, I'll refer to it as a PMO, a project management office, but
Okay.
there is a pooling of project managers at the city, again, recognizing at the city level, we also have projects, whether it's an IT project or some other type of initiative that needs a project manager, that those skill sets are needed. And so we have actually had several folks move from different departments to a consolidated project management office, which I think is really helpful because they can share best practices, et
Yeah.
cetera, when they're executing.
It's great. Thank you.
So any other questions? Councilmember Corliss.
Chair, Director. So looking at the org chart here, has the changes already been taken place within the department?
Chair, Councilmember, I would say probably about 80% of the changes have happened. We've got 2 or 3 more moves, we call them, to happen in the next couple of months. But for the most part, all the changes have taken place. Yeah.
And then with this, I imagine you have some more open positions within the structure. Can you just say how many open positions you have today?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And that came up today. Actually, I was talking with HR about this. We actually have a goal I'm going to share with you here in a second, a goal of an 8% vacancy rate. And I think we're around 13% currently. And I think that's tied to exactly your point. The reorg, we had some open positions, and then as we start to fill those, and if they're internal hires, it starts to create the domino effect. So we have about a 13% vacancy rate, which is not, it's higher than we want. So we're working pretty hard to try to get that back down.
My understanding with a lot of this this personnel reorg, the impact for sort of interactions with the public will not be severely impacted. This is mostly just an internal reorg.
That's correct. This is more of an internal operations reorg. Our interactions with the public will still happen with both our community engagement team, communications, and then our utility billing staff. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you, Chair Kabat. I think I might have answered my question. I was looking for like community outreach, but that would be communications under organizational strategy.
That's correct.
That's right. Okay.
Yep. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it over to our deputy directors. One, I want you to meet them. So they'll introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their background, but then talk a little bit about their branch, what's in the branch, and then some of the accomplishments over the last year that the folks that are in that branch have been able to get done over 2024. So I'll turn it over to first Kristen Ryan.
Hello. So just a minute about me. I'm Kristen Ryan. I have mostly worked for state governments most of my career, about 4.5 years for the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and 20 years for the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. So, I guess the specialness of about Alaska is there isn't really robust local government. So the state ends up being the local government in a lot of ways. So have some experience with providing services to communities in a more direct way than you would expect from a state in that experience. So, but that has now brought me to the city and I'm excited to be here. So I have been tasked with the opportunity to lead the new group of shared services, and we are still finding our way as we develop the services we're going to provide. But essentially, our job is to provide services to the rest of the department and ensure that the rest of the department is able to do what they need to do for the customers. And that falls into 3 main categories. Engineering, which you're familiar with, has a lot of direct interaction with customers themselves, but also provides those services to the other sections in the agency that was already mentioned by Director Burgos. And then finance and administration will provide the financial aspects of rate settings, any bonds or issues and that nature will fall to them, as has been the way in the past. But what's one change that's happened in this unit is we have consolidated our administrative staff that used to be spread throughout the department and reporting to individual people. Now all will report up into one chain of command that does administrative services. And we're hoping that provides opportunities for advancements for our administrative staff and better coverage across the agency, because what inherently happens is certain places and pockets in a group will get more resources than others, and it becomes sort of unbalanced. And by providing this more service across the agency, we can right size that based on needs. So we're pretty excited about that. And then of course, utility billing is continuing as is. There's no changes happening there. And then organizational strategy is new and exciting and has a lot of potential to help the organization make decisions based on data and information that perhaps wasn't as easily available before. That's kind of our main goal, as well as supporting the agency with any process issues. If we're having a difficult time delivering a particular service, this group will be able to step in and provide support to evaluate that process and see where the pinch points are and how to fix them. So excited about what they're going to be able to do, and that we're emphasizing the need to provide that support to the other aspects of the organization. So that's in a nutshell what my group is doing and what I'm tasked with, and we're growing as we go. Is there any question?
Any questions from the commission?
Okay.
I'm sure we'll have some moving forward.
Yes, I will have questions moving forward. So we'll go both ways. I want to give you just a quick couple highlights about some of the things that have happened with these groups over the past year, and even before they were organized the way they are. They, of course, are doing great work, and we want to let you know some of those things. The engineering group has taken, I guess, a project that was of a high priority and made a lot of progress about modernizing our lift stations. There was some concerns about inconsistencies and how those were being managed in a way that provided consistency across all the lift stations. And so we want to standardize that, so then you walk into a lift station or crawl into one, however you get into them, you have the same experience no matter where you are, and you know what you're dealing with and what kind of equipment, so that we can perhaps respond more quickly to events. They've rehabilitated 3.7 miles of small diameter sewer pipe, 1.9 miles of large diameter sewer pipe, and 1.5 miles of biosolid lines, and provided civil engineering support to the Rhodes Skate Park. As Steve mentioned, we do quite a bit of support for other agencies in the city, and from my staff, I understand they love that. That provides I don't know, a little variety in the workday, and just it also feels good, I think, to help others that need our special skill set. Our financial team has been working on a lot of things, but this one stood out to me the most to share with you today. We're working to replace our utility billing software, which is relevant to a lot of customers and will have a big impact. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. The city has spent a lot of time reviewing different vendors to make sure that the software we select is going to deliver the services we want and be user friendly for our consumers. So feeling like they have done a very thorough job to pick the right system before we launch, and we're making a lot of progress there. And finally, the organizational strategy group, while it wasn't officially a section until recently, those individuals have worked in the agency and have been doing a lot of work to help us map out our processes so we can have a better sense of flow of decisions and who does what, and see if we can find ways to be more efficient, or at least provide better service. And we are developing the key results, which are objectives and key results, I should say. And that was something new, I understand, this last year. And it's helping drive our decision making. It came from Steve and other senior leaders in the agency. And we're hoping to expand that now, because it's working quite well, to give people direction and help them prioritize their workloads. What's the highest priority for the agency? Because there's a lot coming at them, and it's easy to pay attention to the most immediate thing, perhaps more than what's the highest priority. So we want to give that direction to them. And we'll be working over the next year to expand that effort into more details of the agency.
And Chair, I'll be covering the OKRs here in a second.
Oh, great.
Excuse me.
Awesome. And that is all I have.
Sure. Question from Councilmember Corliss.
Yeah, Chair. Thanks. It's a pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming and introducing yourself and giving us some of the 2024 highlights. I have a question on the online payment processing. Is this also an organization, like a third-party company that would be taking questions from public? And do we have a rough timeline when we think it might launch?
Let me jump in.
Please.
Yeah.
I could have
Um,
tried, but
I know,
I'd rather not.
yeah, thank you for the question. The online system is Paymentus, and I'll have to get back to you. Heather Buchanan, I don't think is here tonight. I can definitely get back to you on the details of it. We're really excited about it because it was something that was long overdue. Now, whether they'll be processing it in-house or Paymentus will be, those are some of the details I can find out for you. Yeah.
I can offer chairwoman through the chair that they have it is an outside company, and it is but it's being selected by the entire city, so all payments will be going through the same system. So we're part of a larger process, and something I've learned as I've onboarded is that it will have a bigger impact on the interface for the customer, more so than us just revising our utility billing aspects of it. I mean, it's how you will pay, which is the what you're spending most of your time doing when you're interacting with our system. So it will be, and the timeline's pretty quick. It's in this next year, we'll be launching it, I would say.
Yeah, and thank you for the clarification, Kristen. I think yes, it is citywide, and the other key component is we needed to get the Paymentus software selected and start working to get it in place before we move forward with the utility billing software.
Correct.
So it's like sequentially, we needed to get that done first, and now we're able to pivot to hopefully selection of utility billing software in the next 6 months or so, and then that process will start. So it was kind of a sequential thing.
Commissioner Thornfeld.
Thank you, Chair. I was just kind of thinking about this. You listing out the highlights made me think about this just generally with the whole reorg. Have some objectives and goals changed because these divisions have been reorganized and regrouped, or not so much?
I'll jump on that one. It's an interesting question. I would say likely not, because we developed the OKRs last fall, winter. How we execute and how we meet and talk about them will be a little bit different, but I think the actual objectives themselves will stay the same. Moving into 26, we'll be doing that process again. We want to have this as an annual process. And I'm excited to share with you some of the details of what we're trying to accomplish. Like, they're very specific goals where we want to move the needle. But to answer your question, I don't think it's going to change the actual goals. Yeah. Good question.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I believe Water Renewal Services is up next, Ben.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Ben Neidiger. Haley Falconer couldn't be here today. She is the new Deputy Director of our Water Renewal Services program. I am the new Senior Operations Manager for Water Renewal. So I'm really excited about moving into my new role. Prior to joining the city and the department in this new role, I was oversaw our 20 Mile South Farm facility for about 14 years. So really excited about my new role and Haley's involvement in leading us into this new era with water renewal. So just to get a little bit more in depth about our water renewal functional structure here with what we have going on with our 2 new branches. So we have programs and operations. And programs are more related to overseeing our capital improvement projects for the facilities. all of the program management involved with that, and also the regulatory side of the house, all dealing with our IPDES permits with our wastewater program, water renewal program. And then on the operations side, we obviously own and operate and maintain all of those facilities, including the Lander Street facility, West Boise Water Renewal Facility, the 20 Mile South Farm, the phosphorus removal facility down on the Dixie Drain. In addition to our utility maintenance division, we have a process team, an asset team, and then pre-treatment will be coming over to operations here this spring as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the new revamped water renewal services. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions from the commission? All right, looks like you got off easy. Oh, maybe not as easy. Commissioner Ellis.
I was just gonna say congratulations. That's really cool that you came over from the 20 Mile South Farm and now you're over at Water Renewal. It's awesome. I think I remember seeing you a long time ago when I was a livability ambassador and we all came out to the 20 Mile South Farm. So I think you were the one to give us the tour.
Yes, absolutely, Commissioner, and ladies and gentlemen of the Commissioner, thank you very much. I remember that well. Those livability ambassador tours were really pretty fascinating for me. It definitely was a lot of fun. So I appreciated your involvement and your engagement too. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm really excited about my new role and where the department's headed. We got a lot of neat things coming in front of us. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And just to touch on a few highlights from 2024 for water renewal. So we have, of course, our recycled water program, which we're really investing a lot of resources in. So we wrapped up our pilot project, which I think the commission went out and did a tour, correct? Like last year. So we've wrapped up over 50 tours. We collected over 40,000 water samples and treated over 5 million gallons of water. So that's all wrapped up for the year, and we've completely transitioned into design of our new recycled water program and our new facility. So that's a really exciting part of my new team that will be operating and maintaining a new facility by 2029, which is right around the corner. I'll be here before we know it. And then at Lander Street, we have phase 2. It's heavy into its construction. It is changing daily and weekly and monthly before our very eyes. It's a pretty fascinating time to be at Lander Street, adding capacity and replacing some of our aging assets. Some of them is from the 1950s and the original construction. So a huge undertaking at Lander Street. And then at West Boise, we're also in various stages of design and construction. We're getting ready to kick off a couple of new projects related to our ultraviolet filtration project and secondary improvements. So those are going to add capacity, do the same thing, address some of our aging infrastructure, and work to meet more of our regulatory requirements that are coming down the pipe in our new schedules of compliance. So pretty exciting, and more to come.
Okay. Questions? Any questions? Commissioner Ellis, your hand is still up. I don't know if that's just a remainder. All right, looks like nothing.
Okay.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks, Ben. And then last but not least is our new Core Services Deputy Director, Mr. Hickman.
Chair, commission members, nice to see you all this evening. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name is Colin Hickman. I think I know most of you, have been in front of most of you before, but I've been with the city for about 8 years now. And as Ben and Kristen mentioned, couldn't be more excited to step into this new role. Very proud of the organization and the department that I work for and work with. And yeah, I'm very honored and privileged to lead and serve alongside a really a group of talented and passionate individuals. So really excited. So I'll just spend a second walking you through. I think Steve outlined pretty well what's included in the core services branch, but I'll just touch on a few things. Right now, as of today, CURBIT or materials management, which you see on the left there, is embedded in the climate action division. And so as of March 9th, we'll pull them up as their own utility essentially. Because if you think about all the trash, recycling, compost collection, it is its own utility. They have their own customers, commercial, residential, they have assets, they have utility billing. So it's a huge undertaking. And so rather than being tucked under different groups, which they have been for a long time, it's a real recognition of the importance that they serve in the community and the huge impact that they have across Boise. So as of March 9th, they'll be their own standalone utility. I think a lot of you all are familiar with what falls under materials management, so I won't go into more detail there. The Climate Action Division, I'll note a couple changes. The watershed, it moved over to the Climate Action Division as part of the reorganization. They were previously with administration, and just the synergy with climate action makes a lot more sense with where the watershed is going with their reboot and exhibit overhaul. Another one that I'll note is geothermal there at the bottom. Previously, geothermal was in engineering. And again, the tie to climate action, clean energy, the unique system that Boise has, the largest in the country, made a lot of sense with the focus on renewable and clean electricity or energy. And so wanted to move that there. I will note that geothermal will also move up to its own standalone utility down the road. We didn't feel like the time was right now, but there will be a point as you think about geothermal. In many ways, it's its own utility as well. It has customers, it has assets. And so down the road, we'll be looking to bring geothermal out as its own standalone utility as well. But the timing just wasn't now. And then as Steve mentioned, the facility program management group does work across the organization, really supporting different departments. And with the addition of real estate and the city's fleet services, it's really an asset management house that Public Works will oversee that helps the entire city of Boise team. Okay, and I received a very enthusiastic response from the team when I asked for 2024 highlights. So I had the unenviable job of trying to pare them down, but I think it's reflective of the passion that folks have. So I felt a little bit like the Grinch having to pare some of these back. So please just know that there are many more behind what I'll share with you all here today. But I do think it's important to, as Steve mentioned, to reflect a little bit on the past year that's been hugely impactful for the department, and also think about where we're heading. So big expansion here recently was the compost program that for a long time just had fruits, vegetables, and yard waste, but now has expanded to include all food scraps, so meat, dairy, which is a very large and successful expansion for the program. And also, I think a big part of this program, even in the early design, was making sure that the compost that we create and produce, that we're giving back to the community as well. So you can see there 3,500 tons of compost back to the community as part of our give back events, and then the two sites that are available for any resident of Boise that wants to pick up compost. Two repair cafes that we partnered with Jump on. Essentially, those events are the opportunity for anyone in Boise to come, and rather than throw things away, they have various professionals there that really look at whether it's electronics or clothing, how we can repair them, really focusing more on throwing away less, reusing more. So those have been highly successful, and we'll look to expand those going forward. And then the Curbit team also kicked off business waste evaluations for any city business interested. And that's essentially where a city of Boise business can reach out and say, hey, we want someone, a professional, an expert, to come in and look at how we do waste management, and look at how we can evaluate the waste that we generate so that they can make some changes. And so really excited to offer that as a service for Boise businesses. Obviously a lot on, Chair, I'll defer to you if I see a hand went up, so I'm happy to stop.
Yeah, questions, Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you, Chair Kabat. Colin, let's see, the question I had, with the compost expansion. Amazing, congratulations, that's huge. I know that's been a work in progress for a long time. My question is, I'm assuming still that that is for residential and multi-family units, but that's not for business. Businesses still could compost, but just not through the curbside program. They need to call a hauler and take it to um, like Timber Creek. Is that right?
Chair, Commissioners, I believe that's correct. I'll defer to Steve if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioner Ellis. And
I
happy to
didn't-
follow up with the commission on any more details on updates on commercial compost and any considerations there if desired.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pagan?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering if maybe we could have some more information about the expansion of the compost in maybe another meeting. I don't know if this is the right spot, but I did have several of my community ask questions about it.
Yeah.
They were just curious, wanted to know more information specifically about what types of dairy and meat would be allowed in, and also concerns about potential rat problem as we are starting to see that in West Boise, and they were concerned about that potentially causing more of an issue.
Chair, Commissioner, you bet. Appreciate you bringing that up. I'll work with Melissa and staff and we'll bring something back to the commission for a more robust dialogue. Appreciate that.
I'd just add, we're going to be, I think the next session will be focused on solid waste as part of the strategic plan. So perfect timing. We'll come back prepared. Yeah.
Okay, a lot of focus on climate as well. I'll just note a few here. So completed the clean electricity purchase contract with Idaho Power for Lander Street and the Boise Airport, which gets us approximately 25% of the way there for our clean electricity goal for the city facilities by 2030. So a significant achievement there. Received a over $3 million grant for public EV charging. So again, a large accomplishment for the team and the community. And then the watershed exhibit is running full steam with a reopening scheduled for the spring, this spring. And I know the commission will be involved with that reopening as well. So more information for how you all will be involved with that, but excited for the watershed and their team. And then 2 for geothermal. 2 new buildings in 24 were added to the system, Renegade Hotel and the Wasmus Center. And then a significant 10th Street replacement project was completed with federal funding, and then also working on some well upgrades, injection well upgrades. And then last but not least, as we covered before, the integration, I think, of real estate and fleet is an exciting one for how we start to look at assets citywide. And so I'll cover, this is kind of wide ranging, but asked for our real estate team to highlight some. And so I think tying back that role and expertise in strategic real estate, a big significant accomplishment for that team was the acquisition purchase of a site for the new recycled water facility, also a police substation on State Street. So a lot of activity going on with the real estate team. You can see also for our facilities, services, and operations team, that's the group that you'll see some of them here at City Hall today, but also it's a group that is out maintaining libraries, fire stations, do work across the cities. I just put a couple statistics here that I thought were indicative of just the breadth and the volume of work that this team does and the service that they provide. So they maintain about 50 buildings within the city of Boise's portfolio. Just you can see the just over 9,000 work orders, and I also, volume is one thing, but we like to, and Steve will get to some of this with the objectives and key results, but we also want to see like the context. What does that mean? What are the trends? And so worked with Yorick and his team to pull out some of those, and you can see a 24% increase from 23. So obviously the volume is expanding, but also looking at what's our response time and how quick can we turn those projects around. So improve that by 19%, and time to close a work order improved by 25%. So a lot of pride in that team and the work that they do. Yeah, Steve.
Just wanted to note, I mean, those numbers are for that team. They've been absolutely doing great work. And part of it is a reorg that they underwent. They formed 2 teams with they added 2 new supervisors, and we saw dividends pretty quickly. So I think kind of seeing the positive response there was like, we're really excited about some of the reorganization that happened at the department wide level to see what type of efficiencies we can get.
1.3 million in major repair and maintenance projects completed by that team. And then lastly, I'll just note for Fleet Services, who is the group that manages, maintains all of the city's fleet vehicles. I thought these were some really interesting stats just on the scope of the city's fleet. So you can see there 1,700 plus vehicles, a lot of work orders coming in. And then they also had some information that I wanted to include because I think it's good to see just all the variants of the type of fleet that they maintain. So you can see marked and unmarked police vehicles, fire, airport, motorcycles, EV vans. I won't read them all, but a wide variety of vehicles within the city's fleet. So that team does an outstanding job of keeping those tip top. Okay. I will pause. Chair, commission members, happy to stand for any questions. And if not, I will turn it over to Steve.
I have one thought that may be something just to explore as we do figure out how to conceptualize some of the new projects in the Public Works portfolio. But looking at some of the assets and the work orders, I wonder how much of that volume is due to sort of aging assets and the sort of anticipated rate over time as we settle in might be something to follow up on as we move forward.
Yeah, Chair, thank you for that comment question. And Steve can speak to this a little bit as well, but we are looking at that, and we have proposed an overall asset management program for Public Works, really to look at our assets across the spectrum. So whether it's defining an asset, what that means for Public Works, everything from water rights to pipes in the ground to fleet vehicles, to really get our arms around that, and then starting to look at repair and replacement schedules, end of life, what that looks like. And Steve, happy to defer to you if you had any other thoughts.
Yeah, just add in the reorg, you saw asset management within the org strategy group. That's going to be a new position to start getting our arms around exactly that. So we have aging assets. We recognize that in water renewal, and we're already on top of the water renewal side. But for the city facilities, we need to really start getting, and the FSO group is really good on they're probably the most advanced asset management team, but we need to get a much more systematic approach where we can get much better at predicting preventative maintenance, what's run to failure, like all the different types of things you think about with asset management. We need to up our game a little bit.
Thank you. Commissioner Pagan.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to go back to the geothermal slide for a minute. I marvel every time about the size of our geothermal utility. I think it's amazing that we have most of the downtown area and our university and our Capitol building all within the geothermal area. But I'm just curious, is there any concern about a limit on our geothermal resource? I know that there's quite a bit of construction going on downtown, a lot of hotels coming in. I'm just curious to know if there's any potential concern in the future of limits on geothermal.
Chair, Commissioner, appreciate the question. Yeah, I think the limiting factor for the city and the geothermal is really the water rights. That's the significant limiting factor. I think it is the city prides itself on being the geothermal utility prides itself on being a true closed loop. So everything that's pulled up, the heat is extracted and the water goes right back to the aquifer. So as far as like water levels, through data, we've been able to demonstrate, that aquifer has been building back up over time because the city, everything we pull out, we pull right back or push right back into the aquifer. So as far as like water levels, that's not a limiting factor. It's mostly the water rights that the city has. And so there's a team, a collaborative team that includes legal, Public Works, that is constantly looking at the water rights and some strategies on how we can go forward. So I'd imagine that will be a part of the conversation for FY26 as well. So thank you.
Councilmember Corliss.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Hey, thanks for this great information too. And it's my understanding with the geothermal, we have more businesses and buildings that want to come on than what we can handle today. Is that right?
Chair, Councilmember, yes, that's correct. Yeah, I think water rights is the significant limiting factor. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're hustling to try to get that adjusted. Hopefully we'll have an update in the next couple of months on some some new developments.
Okay. And last night in council, we heard about the new Climate Action Committee. Is that committee going to be part of the department, reporting into the department, or will that be
If
in a
it's
different area?
you,
Yeah, I can take that.
Okay.
The Chair, council member, thanks for the question. Our understanding, and Melissa may be able to touch on this as well, is that the new committee will, I think that's primarily run through community engagement and the mayor's office. That being said, I think Public Works technical staff is very heavily involved and partnered and offering any collaboration or guidance or advice that we can. But I think as far as kind of leading that effort, that's through the Office of Community Engagement and the mayor's office. Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Then one other note / question that I believe falls primarily with the council. But as we do take on assets and stronger intertwine ourselves with other departments within the city, looking at sort of some of that strategic direction that will be managed through the Public Works Commission, to what degree do we maybe as a commission, or do we lean on and check in with the members of the city council and the mayor's office to sort of liaise with these other groups to understand some of the needs and expectations for these assets that we'll be maintaining into the future. So maybe no answers right away, but just a earmark. Any other questions? All right, seeing none.
Chair, commissioners, thank you so much.
The next topic is going to be the objectives and key results. I'm wondering if we just want to do you want to take 5, or I can jump right in? Anybody need a break? Feeling good?
Thoughts? Should we take 5 or go right in? Yeah, let's go right in. All right.
Okay. So the next section that we're going to jump into is the objectives and key results. And so probably about a year ago, well, a couple of years ago, we were meeting with the leadership team, and there was, just being very open, there was some frustration about a sense of not knowing. Everyone knew kind of what the big picture priorities were, but we didn't necessarily have some specific goals that were set to really clarify for that particular fiscal year, where do we want to move the needle? And so Kyle Patterson in the office now, he's the director now of organizational effectiveness, reached out to Colin. Colin had just taken over as our org strategy lead, and Colin, knowing that that was something we were looking for, just so happened that Kyle was looking to pilot a concept called objectives and key results. And I was like, oh, well, that's convenient. So we got together and we decided to go ahead and pilot this within Public Works. And it really, so far, so good. We're now FY25, we're in the second quarter, and we had our first quarterly check-in with the team, and I'll get into the details here in a second. I just want to share that everybody feels really good about, one, really being clear about what we're trying to accomplish on specific items that we want to prioritize for this year. And I think the other one, ironically, is just that accountability, that people feel like it is clear who is accountable and that we're all working to make sure these get accomplished. That was other feedback we got, people appreciating that accountability aspect as well. Before we got into the actual objectives and key results, we did want to identify kind of the specific key areas. We kind of refer to them as level of service goals. Some people call them core pillars. These are the primary areas where we want to make sure that we're achieving on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of the community. So reliable and safe utility operations, financial responsibility and performance, you see environmental sustainability and innovation, internally looking at our high performing organization and employees, and then last but certainly not least is exceptional customer service. This next slide is going to be an eye chart. I'm going to briefly cover it just to show you this is how we're looking at it from a Public Works perspective. We have this on one sheet of paper and people can see this. I'm going to break each one of these down here specifically, so don't worry about reading the details. So we put some objectives around each one of those service areas. So I'm going to jump into the reliable and safe utility operations. Our objective is to become a national leader in safely operating advanced utilities. This is a very high priority at the city. We know it's a high priority for council. We're seeing the cost of claims going up. We're seeing the cost of premiums go up significantly. And this is something that we can proactively manage that actually can control our costs. So we are hearing it loud and clear from Mayor and Council that this is a priority. So we decided to go ahead and develop these following key results or outcomes specific to risk and safety. I won't go into each one of these, but just know that these are ones that we're tracking. We just had our quarterly meeting. I think we're on progress for all of these in risk and safety. But for example, job hazard analysis within our risk and safety department, they're trying to go out for every job classification within the city and determine for your specific job, what are the hazards that you can expect? And therefore we can customize the iLearn. We have our internal trainings called iLearn. We can customize the trainings for your specific job. We get the staff who are involved in that job family to review, agree that those are the specific hazards. If they disagree, we can have feedback back and forth. They sign, and then we're clear on exactly what they need to be trained up on and what they need to watch for in their job. Similarly, we have key results around our standard operating procedures and emergency operating procedures. We have identified some challenges around our lift stations. And sometimes you just got to own those. So we have we had some safety issues that we found. So we basically said, let's be specific about fixing those issues in the lift stations. So you can see we're going to resolve 100% of our critical life safety issues at all of our lift stations. And then we're putting budget behind that to make sure that that's happening. So that's a pretty high level look at some of the OKRs related to reliable and safe utility operations. Again, very specific. And then if you saw on the previous slide, I'll just show you real quick, over on the right, you can see who's responsible for those. So for example, we have goals around our iLearn training that 98% of, I think it's 98% of staff, or less than 2%, will have their iLearn training done. That's my responsibility. I'm accountable for that, and I'm going to make sure that happens. So you can see on the right who's accountable for the following OKRs. Financial responsibility and performance. Our objective is to maintain financial sustainability that reflects community values. Specifically on this one, we have one that we really need to focus in on. We have these large capital programs within water renewal services. We need to get those projects started, designed, constructed, and operations. Right now, we're not getting that. Like if we set a budget of say $80 million to spend that year, right now we're not getting that full 80 million spent. So we've ramped up. That's where the project managers come in. That's where the program management comes in. We've ramped up our internal capacity to increase that number. We want to have it at about 70% by the end of FY25. On the environmental sustainability and innovation, Boise, our objective is to have Boise as a climate resilient, carbon neutral city by 2050. And you can see some of those listed. Colin shared that we were able to sign those new 100% clean electricity contracts with Idaho Power. That gets us to 25% of the way there. We do have a stretch goal for 25 to get another 25% in FY25. That's going to be that's a stretch goal. Being honest, I don't know that we're going to get there, but we're going to try and see what we can pull off. You can see we want to increase our geothermal water rights. So to your question on the geothermal side, we want to get the additional 50 million gallons. You can see some of the external funding through grants that we want to acquire specific for climate outcomes. And again, two other ones related to recycled water that we want to move the needle on. High performing organization, we want to be the employer of choice for local workforce and a place where our people can build successful careers. We don't want people to come here, feel like they don't have a future and head out. So specifically, we want to have a job vacancy rate of 8% or less. I shared it's at 13%. So we've got some work to do there. We have process maps. That's business process maps. So we want to have every new group in the reorganization have 100% of their high level business processes mapped out. And then we can start identifying efficiencies within those business processes. And then we have specifically want to pilot something. It's a new PO invoice process that we want to have 60% of staff trained up on. And exceptional customer service. The objective is it's easy and fast for Boise residents and businesses to get what they need from Public Works. We don't have an OKR for this one. We feel like our customer service, while there are certainly issues that crop up every once in a while, it wasn't an area that we felt we had to move the needle on this year. I think there'll probably be something next year when we talk about the utility billing software and the rollout and making sure we're very intentional about the customer, the user interface. But for this year, we didn't feel like we wanted, if we didn't have a major issue we wanted to get addressed, we didn't feel like we just wanted to put something in to put something in. So for this particular level of service area, we did not have a key result. Okay. And then I'll stop there. Any questions on the OKRs? And I'll share one more thing. I'm sorry. This is a pilot, and the intention is, and we've talked with Kyle, for other departments to start taking on this approach, identifying areas where they want to make, to move the needle, to keep alluding to. But the OKR process for us has been very effective. So far, so good. And we feel like it's going to be a great tool for us in the future and the years to come. So, questions?
Questions from the commission? I have a, Councilmember Corliss.
My poor mom said I always had questions all the time. So sorry. This is fantastic. And it looks like the objectives and you guys, what you piloted this year is being successful. And I appreciate that, right? It's hard because if you go back to where your goals are for climate action, I just wanted to put a notch there that said world peace at the bottom, because it seems like those goals there can be a stretch goal and there's a lot to get to. But I was curious, so when we look at the carbon neutral goal and what we have for this next year, do we know the key areas that we need to target as a city that are going to drive the biggest impact?
Chair, council member, appreciate that. We do have a sense for some of the things that we want to take on. We're going to electrify additional buildings. So one of the things, it's how would I describe it? It's almost like there's incrementalism to make sure that when those big disruptions happen, you're ready. So this is one of those where we're electrifying. It's like those are the painful, like, gosh, just grinding through that electrification of this and that and this building and that building, so that when you do get the clean electricity contract, in effect, those buildings are. So that's like for this year, we'll be doing additional work there. We have the weatherization program for low income Boiseans. That's a huge thing for us, for those low income residents, to get them more efficient, using less, emitting less carbon, lower cost than their utilities. That's something that we have in the budget, and we're developing that for FY26. We have that already in FY25. Trying to think of other things. The EVs, we're constantly, I can't remember the exact number, but we have a large number of EVs that have been added to our fleet. So the numbers are trending in the right direction, and we continue to build on that. I think every year the team is kind of reconsidering. If you had asked me just 2 or 3 years ago what the priorities were, electrification wouldn't necessarily have been there. So the climate space is evolving pretty quickly, both on the technology side, but also just kind of everybody comparing notes and saying, well, that's not going to get us there fast enough. Try this instead. So am I answering your question? Okay.
I'm also wondering, in just hearing this run through, how far along in sort of the identifying specific strategies or options to pursue you are, and if it's helpful to offer any ideas or feedback that we have aligned with any of these objectives. At least today, maybe another meeting.
Yeah, I think, Chair, thank you for the question. I think at this point, we had our first quarterly meeting, and I think we had of the OKRs, I want to say probably 75% were green light. So far, so good. A couple were yellow, and one was maybe orange, I'll say. Let me think about that. I don't know. Maybe it's where we're just reporting back to you. I know that maybe doesn't feel good because you're not able to provide input as much, but can I think about that? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commission? Right, hearing none, back to you.
Okay. And then we've already talked about some of the 2024 accomplishments. I won't belabor this, but it's a credit to the staff. In Public Works, we have an amazing staff, and they are so, Colin alluded to it, the passion with which they do their work, the expertise they bring to the table. It's like an honor to be the director. So this is the result of a lot of hard work from our staff. They are incredible. So I'm going to move on to public art. Really excited for this section because it's, for us in Public Works, a little different. We do a lot of technical work. The public arts team is really fun to work with. They're really good at what they do, and they've helped us a lot just navigating the world of a world that we really don't know. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. She's going to come up and introduce herself and talk about the work that we're doing between Public Works and Arts and History.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Hannah. Thank you, commissioners and Councilmember Corliss for having me. I've been with the city for almost 2 years now, and I've had the pleasure of being in the role of the Public Works Public Art Project Coordinator. So that means I get to liaise between the Public Works Department and the Arts and History Department to develop and manage public art projects that speak to the city's overall climate and sustainability goals, and pay note to the public works infrastructure. It's a really unique job and super fun, and I've had so much fun in the last 2 years getting to explore what is public works, because I honestly did not know before I started exactly what was involved with public works, and I have a whole new appreciation after starting here. So moving on, my slides are going to be much more colorful. So to start, these are very common questions that we get. What is public art? Public art, simply put, is art and public space funded by public money using the public process. So in everything that we do, we center the community in every project, and that is how we get successful public art pieces. That's how we are able to reflect the identity of Boise and what's important to Boiseans in the work that we do. And so what is the role that art and history plays? So Boise's city's public art program provides meaningful experiences and opportunities through accessible public art and programming that cultivates the evolving identity of Boise and fosters a sense of place. And in doing this, we're supported by our Percent for Art ordinance. The public art team develops, manages, and cares for public art projects throughout the city of Boise. So my position specifically is funded from the Percent for Art ordinance, but specifically from the Public Works Enterprise funds. So we have different funds for the airport, their enterprise funds, capital general fund projects, and then the Public Works Enterprise funds. So all my projects are tied to public work initiatives, essentially. My role has derived from the Public Works Arts Master Plan, which really acts as like a visioning, a guide to what is possible when we are fusing public works and public art and what is possible. And so what I get to do is take the seeds that were planted in the master plan and expand on them and change with the times and grow them into something that really reflects Boise right now. So I'm just going to give you a general overview of what we've been doing since I've started in the last year or so, and then what's to come, just brief. Try to keep it under 5 minutes. So small but mighty projects, Earth Day sculpture. I got to work with artist Margaret Pope to develop a live sculpture build during last year's Earth Day. She used the billboards from the Jump billboards, and she works with recycled materials in her work already. It was super fun and a way to engage with the community that was different, that connected both what Public Works is doing and what we're doing with public art. And then also the revitalization of a Public Works funded public art piece called Heliotrope by Dwayne Carver. The original vision for the artist was to have vines growing up through the piece, and so we partnered with the botanical gardens and using city compost to plant some vines, and hopefully in the next year or so we'll really start to see it growing. But this is in Bodo on 8th Street. So keep an eye out for it. So next is the art ports. This is in partnership with CCDC during their Linen District project. And then they built these art ports that are developed by Studio Capacitor. There are 2 art ports, and what an art port is, it's designed to be like a universal base for a rotating sculpture program. So the base stays, but the plate on top is able to be fitted for a rotating public art piece. So we actually have the opportunity to partner with BSC's Art and Design program with their advanced 3D class. And we opened up a call specifically to this class to help them develop as professional artists, and as well as like speak to the initiatives within the city. And the entire curriculum for this semester-long class is built around the art ports, which is really fantastic. And it's such a huge privilege to give that opportunity to students. Being an artist myself, that's kind of a unique opportunity in college. This program, we are working because it is, we have the ability to rotate the sculptures. It also gives us freedom to play around with materials. So we invite the artists to experiment with materials. So this piece shown is from last year's program, and it's scrap metal and it's rusting, and that's like the opposite that you really want in public art normally. But just to see how creative the students were and taking the prompt and running with it. And I want to thank materials management team for their guidance, because in every one of my projects, again, with involving the public, but also involving the different areas of public works, it enriches the projects that I do and just helps me align to the public works values and mission. And the next art port will be coming up in June. So next is traffic boxes. I think this image is familiar by now. This piece is by Wyatt Wurtenberger, and it's in response to last year's traffic box program. And the idea is respond to the idea of equity, affordability, and access in Boise through the lens of water renewal, emphasizing One Water principles. And then this was also in partnership with CCDC and ACHD. And it was fascinating to see what came from that. It really pushed artists to explore these areas on their own. And so this is one piece that really stuck out. Wyatt interviewed someone from the Lander Street facility for this project, and just gained a whole new appreciation for public works through doing that. And then here's just a quick overview of most of the boxes from last year. Just fun to see all the varying responses to one prompt. And then another big project that I worked on, but along with the whole public art team, was developing an artist professional development series that folded in the topic of climate and sustainability. So this was a 4-part series. One was foundations, just the basics of how to get into public art. Artist Industry Night was more focused on networking with other artists, and then the artist sustainability, how we can approach art with a more sustainable practice. And then cross collaboration, and this one was really focused on collaborating with scientists, with engineers, with people from different disciplines, so that especially when responding to public art projects that are geared towards the public works initiatives, there's that extra tool of connection with science and with people from other expertise to strengthen the public art that we put out. And it was fun to have all these varying events and who came out for what and what was pulled from it. And it was super fun. The last one we had was at the Luminary at BSU. And we had a science professor and an art professor speak, and they collaborate. BASH, I don't know if anyone is aware of that, but it is a really unique and cool program that is starting up at BSU. So
Awesome. We do have just a quick question from one of the commissioners, Commissioner Ellis.
yeah,
Thank you, Chair Gabat. This is really fun. This is really great content. I wanted to ask you, or just maybe put it out there that, so I'm at Boise State University, and I get fielded all sorts of questions, environmental compliance and sustainability. Management is what I do. And I just keep seeing some themes here of thread. So recycling fiber, thread, it's coming up, and I just think that the artist community, especially at Boise State, they are so creative and really are inventive, and especially teaming them up, like I said, with engineering. It is really fun to see the things they come up with. And I keep wondering if there's a way to promote and advocate someone figuring out how to recycle fiber and thread locally. At one point, there was someone who took blue jeans and made insulation. But here an example was someone at Boise State had like 400 employee uniforms, and they didn't know what to do with them. And so I sent them to ThreadUp, and I sent her to Bosco and said, "Oh, you should try these artists. There's tons of them that maybe would like your material to incorporate into their art." So anyway, I just want to put a plug there that fiber and thread reuse, recycling into the arts would be really, really well received. And then I also wanted to say that I love that picture that you just had where you showed the 3 or the 4 series events. That is Delia Dante's gallery downtown, one of the 3 galleries that are downtown, a woman-owned gallery. And she and I are longtime friends, so it's really, I'm excited to tell her that her studio and gallery were in your slide deck.
Delia was very generous in offering the space, and it is such a beautiful space, and it's very important and very good work that she's doing for artists in the community.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
one more from Commissioner Pagan.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple of questions. The public art, I know that some of it has some sort of plaque to kind of explain some of it, but just curious if there's a plan to have a plaque that kind of explains some of the rotating art or anything like that. Working in tourism, one of the big draws of being in the city is that people love the creativity that just kind of oozes out of just about every corner of our city. And I know that they would really appreciate any kind of plaque that kind of explains the public art, especially if it has anything related to like students or anything like that. I think that'd be really cool to kind of showcase, to share with not only our community, but anyone who comes to our community about the kind of work that you guys are doing to really highlight students and artists in our community. And then just curious, are you planning on doing more of those series in the future where there's a professional development with artists? I do know a few artists in the community, and I know that they would love to kind of see that grow.
So to answer your first question, we don't have a designated plaque, but with all of our art, we're incorporating a QR code that will take you to our public art archives, and we're building it up right now. It's very new to the public art collection with Boise, but we're building it out. So that's going to hold a lot of supplemental information, and there will be whole collections. So Public Works will have a whole collection within the larger public art collection, and people can explore that and find the ties between all of the public art within the city of Boise. And then your second question about professional development, it won't be exactly the same. We're kind of we've assessed and we're going to approach it in the next year in a way that is both more beneficial to artists. I think breaking it up into maybe like once a year event or something like that, more concentrated. But we've definitely seen that networking for artists and professional development is super important to the artists within Boise. Yeah. So public or projects in the works. We are developing very close to launching the Water Conservation and Resiliency Project at the Foothills Learning Center. This will highlight water conservation and resiliency. And throughout the lead up to this project, I've been pulling from the Climate Action Team, the Climate Roadmap, Water Renewal Utility Plan. We have a lot of resources readily available. And I've learned so much just through exploring for this project. And this is actually an opportunity developed in tandem with the Going Public series to offer a mid-level large-scale project, public art project. We're trying to cover the gap between emerging artist projects like the traffic boxes and our larger projects that are for more established public artists. So this kind of fits in the middle of that scale. This is also a collaboration with Public Works, Art and History, and the Jim Hall Foothills Learning Center. And we're also using this as kind of a way to invite people in to explore more of the Foothills Learning Center, because what they're doing out there is critical and very important into the larger initiatives within the city. And then, so as part of that project, I was able to sneak in a few survey questions on the Ridge to Rivers survey that they take out every year. And we got an astounding number of responses. It was optional at the end of the survey, and we had almost 1,700 people respond to the survey, which was incredible. And I just wanted to highlight two of the questions that we asked. What are 3 words that come to mind when you think of water in the foothills versus what are 3 words that come to mind when you think of water in Boise? And just wanting to like have people draw the connection between this place that is so beloved, the foothills, and our city, and that water is both very different in those 2 places, but vital in each. And how can we draw that connection? And how can I give this information to an artist to take and explore and pull apart and come up with something that both reflects Boise and is important to Boiseans. And then just interesting to see the juxtaposition between the 2. And then focus for this year. So the traffic boxes have been the signal control cabinets for ACHD, but this year we're moving into the public work utility cabinets, kind of the smaller ones between blocks rather than the large ones on the corners and whatnot. We're also doing our art ports again. And then the water conservation project at the Foothills Learning Center, and then Warm Springs Golf Course traffic calming asphalt art, and then gearing up for the Landers project. So I'm developing 2 projects kind of tied to the different phases of the Landers Street project. So we'll start the development of that this year. And yeah, and I wanted to add, with all of these projects, we have panel members, and it's especially important to have Public Works commissioners on our panels. We always have a arts and history commissioner on our panels, and so I think drawing in Public Works staff and commissioners is super important to these Public Works focused projects. So I will give you my information. I would love for any and all of you to be on any of my panels in the future. Yeah, any questions?
A couple things to add before we open up to questions. One, I think Commissioner Collette is on one of the panels already. So we have representation on one project. And then I just want to recognize Jen Stevens, our Arts and History Director, is here with us. Jen's been a really great partner for us. We've done really great work at the Boise Watershed, where we've concentrated all of our public art there. But part of the goal of the Public Works Arts Master Plan is to start getting out into the community more and trying to engage the community on these really important issues around climate, around water. And the team really has embraced that. And I just wanted to recognize Jen for her leadership and helping us kind of make that a real thing. Like the Foothills Learning Center, that project's going to be really cool once it gets done. So just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you. I'll just say that I was able to serve on an art selection committee as well in the past, and was a pretty fun experience. Any other questions from the commission? All right. Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we have one more slide. Well, a couple, but really one main slide. And Melissa is going to give us a quick overview of some of our community engagement events, areas of focus for FY25.
Thank you, Director Burgos. Chair, Commissioners, the final slide. So I am Melissa Stoner. I am the Communications Manager for Public Works. I'm actually an employee of the Community Engagement Department. So wanted to just give you a few highlights that are coming up in 2025 for Public Works community engagement. So as you recall, last fall, we talked about the Kerbit community survey, the solid waste survey, and we walked through those survey results together. So, excuse me, that survey was in support of our solid waste strategic planning, which is going on right now. The purpose of that plan is really to envision the next 10 years of solid waste programs. We have very successful solid waste programs that we're very proud of, that our residents are very engaged in. Our compost program, our recycling programs are excellent, and we want to think about what can we do now and what would residents support in the future, so we can continue to grow a circular economy for materials and keep obviously a clean city for everyone. So coming up to support the solid waste strategic plan, we've completed the community survey, and now we're going to be working on some focus groups. So starting tomorrow, actually, in our In the Know newsletter, the call to action will come out. We're going to be asking for about 15 to 20 community members for 2 focus groups, where we'll actually sit down and engage in community conversation about strategic planning for those solid waste services. So we're going to be forming 2 focus groups that we'll be working with in April. And again, those 2 groups will act as voices of the community to help us understand what are the programs that people need, what are the programs they support, what are the obstacles to reducing their own waste that they experience, and how can the city help support them in reducing waste. The Boise Community Climate Committee and Community Climate Survey. So Commissioner Corliss, you asked about that earlier, and I'm happy to tell you about that. As you know, in 2021, we developed a couple of bold climate action goals to become carbon neutral by 2035 as a municipal government, and then 2050 as a community. So in order to reach that community goal, the city's working hard, obviously, on its own goal for 2035. But in order to reach our 2050 goal, we need to engage our community. We need collective climate action. So in order to engage the community, we need to understand what the community supports in terms of climate action, what their obstacles are, what their priorities are, their concerns. So this is the point of the Boise Community Climate Committee. So that selection process has actually just been completed. So we've formed a committee of, I think, 20 to 25 people who will be engaging in a number of work sessions. And following up on that, we'll also have a community climate survey. So for those residents who couldn't engage in a committee, whether they had time constraints or weren't selected, The broader community is also going to be surveyed, and this is coming out also this month. We'll have a broader community climate survey. And again, this is just to understand where we can meet our residents in climate action and have a real resident-led community climate action plan. The grand reopening of the watershed climate, and we're missing a word there, climate and water education center. So as you may know, the watershed was formerly a water education center. They closed down, are installing brand new exhibits. They're beautiful. I was there on Friday. They are really great. They invited in a group of kids to be some of the first to actually experience these exhibits, and they were very engaged. So we have an official reopening date now that we will start promoting, and that is going to be March 15th, 2025. So the watershed will be reopening its doors as a community climate and water education center. So we'll be doing a lot of community engagement around that to make sure people know this resource is open to them. We want to see them on opening day, and thereafter the watershed will be open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 4:30. This is where we do a lot of important education in our community, and we welcome families. We welcome all of our residents. And I want to add too that all of our exhibits are also translated into Spanish. They are ADA accessible. So this is a community space for those climate conversations. So that's coming up this year. And then we're also planning the City of Boise Earth Day celebration for 2025, and that's coming up on April 19th. And this year it will be at Veterans Memorial Park. This is another great opportunity for the departments of the various divisions rather of Public Works to reach out and get the community engaged in their work. So everything from water renewal services to the Curbit team, to our geothermal team. Last year we had 50 community partners there. So we had environmental and climate partners that were there as well, answering residents' questions, getting them involved in their initiatives. And we're looking forward to the second year of the Earth Day celebration this year. So these are not all of our engagement events that are coming up. We have a few more as well, but just a few highlights that we will be inviting you to join us for. Any questions?
Chair.
Councilmember Corliss.
Not so much a question, maybe a comment. And so I'm thinking about as myself as a citizen and how engaged and what I can do for climate action. I think part of it is just not knowing myself what would have the biggest impact, right? Is it, I mean, switching to an EV would be great, but it's a pretty high cost for people. So is it, changing out a window? Is it insulation? Those kind of things that I hope we see in like Earth Day, that people like, hey, you want to help out? These are the things you can do and what has an impact.
Yes, Chair, Commissioner Corliss, that's been a big conversation within the climate team is what are those accessible actions? Because what's accessible for one person is not for another. Some people are ready to buy an EV. Some people need something more accessible that they can do. And there are lots of smaller actions that people can take that still add up collectively to big climate action. So part of the joy of that day is seeing all of these groups come forward with all kinds of solutions for people who want to take climate action and make it easier for them to start where they are. I would add parenthetically, we were having a meeting with that team recently this week, and one of the themes that came up a lot was, before I had kids, I used to ride my bike to work all the time. Before I had kids, I was really good at reducing my waste. And I said, gee, I'm hearing an obstacle to climate action here. What are the things, parents need practical solutions. The reason some of our most difficult behavior changes are because they are convenient. And taking those actions can be mighty inconvenient, especially when you're running a whole family. So we're thinking really hard about how to meet residents where they are with the actions that they're ready to take.
I would just add in, Councilmember, within the climate action roadmap, we were really intentional about, scientists and engineers, right? So every year we have the actual carbon reductions and making assumptions around rooftop PV, EV conversions. And so And we're tracking those trends, and we're actually ahead on some of them. We're ahead on rooftop PV, but we're behind on others. And our assumptions on like EV adoption are probably overly optimistic. So then we're trying to figure out, okay, let's just say it's half as many EVs. Where can we make it up in the other 14 or 15 other measures that we have measured out on efficiency, the small things that we can do? That's what we want to get the community engaged in. We have those mapped out, but we haven't necessarily had a good conversation with our community about what, did you know that if you can't afford an EV, that's okay. It's okay that you can't afford an EV. We can help you make up that same amount of carbon with these 3 actions that are more. So that's what we're trying to get to with the community the community committee, and then we're working out some kind of community plan.
And if I could add, Chair and Commissioner Corliss, you brought up, how do I know what's an impactful climate action? That was another part of the conversation, is as we bring this Boise climate committee together, we were talking about in those group meetings, how do we let them know this is a impactful climate action, and not that all climate actions are not. They all have impact, but we're talking about how to communicate to those to whom it matters. How can I take the biggest action to make sure that they understand that as well?
Any other questions from the commission? I'd say none.
All
Back
right.
to you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that wraps up the presentation. Again, this was kind of, we were hoping to knock this out last session. We don't like talking at you. The next session is going to be very much more interactive. A couple things to close out. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the council's support for our work. The reorg that we did, we asked a lot of city council, and I'm so thankful that they trust us to do these things and give us the resources to make them happen. The efficiency that we're seeing within the facility service and operations, those are all based on like, hey, we want to do a reorg. We asked for an FTE to help on supervising those groups. And so just a thank you to council. And then it wasn't on Melissa's slide, and it's because it's going to wrap up here shortly, but we've been working with the Recycled Water Advisory Group for the last 6 months and really diving deep on water quality questions. And I feel badly for them, because I think I don't know if they knew what they were signing up for, but it really is, we've gotten such amazing feedback from them. It's really like we've had just really deep conversations and really understanding where the concerns are, what the expectations are of us. We're going to come back and share that information with you as part of our ongoing recycled water discussion with the commission. But just wanted to share that it never fails to be rewarding when we get community members that are willing to spend real time to dig in deep on something. The perspectives that we hear are just so like, wow, that is not what I expected. Or, wow, that's exactly where we thought that might go. That's like, it's reassuring. So anyway, it's really fun, and it'll be nice to share with you what we heard back. But that's all we had.
Awesome. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda, the Commissioner Forum. We had a Commissioner Forum item on the agenda.
I'm sorry, let me double check.
This might just be open discussion time.
Yeah, I
for
think
us.
that was the open discussion time. Sorry.
There any other items to come before the commission?
Sure.
Yes.
I don't have another additional topic, but just want to express gratitude. This was a really good presentation today. I know you are reticent to present at us, but it was really helpful to see all the thoughtful organizational changes that are occurring within the department. And so very excited to see the trajectory of where we're headed. And really exciting to see like public art being more promotional of all the things that Public Works is doing. So that was a really fun element to end our time together today.
Yes, all very, very exciting updates. Any other items to come before the commission today? Going once, twice. All right, hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Pagan,
I move to adjourn.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Morgan?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Morgan. All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.